Good morning, friends. Here is Dr. Naval Singh Todawat, Assistant Professor in the subject of Botany. Today we will be learning the alga that is known as the Nostoc. In previous video, we have seen the general characters of the Nostoc and its classifications. Friends, Nostoc is a prokaryote which lies in the kingdom of Monera. Belongs to the Cyanophaceae, whereas we have also seen that it is a unicellular with having a heterocyst, pigments, and the cell wall. Due to the pigments, it has a capability of the photosynthesizing, producing its own food material. Friends, while overview of the nostocs, it comes that this alga is a blue-green alga and the habitat is terrestrial as well as the subaerial. Some of them, or few scientists, place them in the group of bacteria. That is why they are to be known or called as the cyanobacteria. When we see the colony of Nostoc, it is a jelly mass. Jelly means somewhat sticky and it is accumulated, which seems to be a mass like structure. All the filaments of this Nostoc, which are thread like, are coiled and embedded to form the mass. This alga is distributed in the alkaline soils, moist rock where the water content is present, water ponds, streams, and in few lakes also. When we collect a sample of this nostoc filament and we remove an individual thread from this mass, then such filament is to be called as a trichome. These filaments are unbranched and seems to be a bed like structure. Well, in this next slide, you can clearly visible a colony of a nostoc. The colony is covered by the mucilage sheath, that is jelly, and assembling of many more filaments is to be known as the colony. Well, in the diagram, figure C, you can see the single filament of a nostoc. While observing this figure, it looks like a parenchymatous cells are attached to each other with the heterocyst in it having the intercalary and polar nodule. Okinates are also present in the nostoc filament. The whole filament or the body of nostoc is to be known as a thallus, which form a structure by assembling with many threads, that to be called as filament, and which is composed of many cells. As I spoke, these cells are arranged in a chain-like manner, form the bed-like structures. Unsimilarity of the cells is not seen, that is, similar cells are observed. And a single thread or a filament of a nostoc isolated from the colony is covered with a gelatinous sheath. The word gelatinous means it has a sticky in nature and waxy in some appearance. While observing or going thoroughly with the structure of this thallus of nostoc, here it is shown the two diagrams A and B. The first one is shaded with the green color and the B one is showing the yellow color. While heterocyst seems to be large in size and the wall is very thick, which performs the special functions. One has to remember the function of heterocyst, that is reproduction as well as the nitrogen fixation. In A diagram or in the picture of A diagram, that is of vegetative cell. In this vegetative cell, you can see the diffusion, intracellular diffusion from the heterocyst to the vegetative cell. Now, what is trichomes? When we heard about the trichomes, we commonly called it as it is a hair-like structure, whereas on the leaf or on the any parts of the plants. But in case of nostoc, a filament is to be called as the trichomes, are mostly similar in structure and slightly large with the specific intervals, those to be known as the heterocyst. When we view the heterocyst, look at the figure shown from the lower side of the slide. The heterocyst appears to be round in the shape and little bit yellowish and thick-walled. Trichomes mostly are breakdown just near or beneath to the heterocyst, and this happens for the formation of harmogonia, and which helps in the fragmentations. Trichomes are unbranched, spherical, somewhat round shaped, barrel shaped, or cylindrical shaped. Chromoplasm. Chromoplasm is a external colored part along with the cell wall. When we study the structure of cell of Nostoc, it shows each cell is round and has a cell wall. Now the protoplasm or the cytoplasm which is present in the Nostoc cell is to be divided into two parts. Centroplasm, that is to be called as central body, that is, the nucleus is not well developed or it is with the incomplete nucleus. Look at the diagram shown at the left hand side. A circular or circle shaped Nostoc cell, cell wall. Just beneath to the cell wall, there is plasma membrane. Above the cell wall is covered with the gelatinous sheath. As I told you, what is the gelatinous? Then go for the matrix. DNA, spirally coiled thread-like structure, which lies in the central part of the cell. Then the ribosomes, working for the protein synthesis, and the lamellae, that is photosynthetic lamellae, and somewhat phosphate granules are also present. When talking about the structure of the nostoc, centroplasm, that is to be called as central body of the cell with the incomplete nucleus. This part has been observed colorless, which shows some stored food granules and act as a nucleus, as like eukaryotes. But fact is that the cell do not have true nucleus. This was regarding the structure and the organelles present in the Nostoc cell. Sexual reproduction is absent in the Nostoc, and the asexual reproductions helps to form a next generation progeny. Now, there are three types of asexual reproduction: by acanate formation, heterocyst, as we have shown in earlier or previous slide, and by the formation by harmogonia or by fragmentation. Harmogonia is just formed beneath to the heterocyst and which helps to break down the filament. Now we'll focus on the each one. Number one, that is Harmogonia. How these Harmogonia are formed? Generally, they are formed by the fragmentation. Heterocysts break to form the Harmogonia. Each Harmogonium grows into a new filament by repeated cell division. By forming the acanate spores or arthrospores, this takes place in unsuitable condition. Some cells, few cells, enlarge and covered by a thick wall. A cells of a filaments in a thread, they naturally became big and large in size, and they are covered a wall that is thick in nature. In such an unfavorable condition, these cells are to be called as akinites, arthrospores, or we may call them as a resting spores. The last one, heterocyst. Heterocysts are changed into a normal reproductive cell and lastly detach from the mother cell, and it is converted again to form a new filament. One has to remember that Nostoc doesn't reproduce sexually. Asexual reproduction has been observed in the Nostoc. So, well as talking about the asexual reproduction by formation of harmogonia or fragmentation by formation of aconites and by heterocyst. Look at the figures. Here are three figures. Focus on the number one. You can see the Nostoc filaments. This filament is fragmented into two just beneath from the heterocyst, and this fragmentation of the filaments are known to be harmogonia. In diagram they are shown in two, and each harmogonia is capable to form a new filament. Whereas a kinate formation and the last one is heterocyst. Friends, this was about the reproduction as well as the structure of the nostoc. Now you can see some beneficiary aspects of this alga, how it is importance and its silent features or importance. As we know, nostoc is autotroph and capable to produce its own food. Cyanobacteria, blue as well as green algae. These alga use carbon dioxide and release oxygen while the process of photosynthesis. So it is an important with the point of environment becomes fresh and is used by aquatic animals in the aquatic ecosystem. They are also useful in the fixation of nitrogen. So friends, we have gone thoroughly with the respect of the nostoc, and we have seen its structure, thallus structure, is systematic position as well as the reproduction. As we told, the reproduction is by asexual method and the sexual method is completely absent in the nostoc. Its help in fixing the nitrogen, and while the process of photosynthesis, it uses the carbon dioxide and releases the oxygen in the its habitat. In this aquatic habitat, this oxygen is very useful for the rest of the organisms such as animals for their survival. Friends, the diagrams, pictures or slides shown by in this video are taken from the slideshare.com. It is the purpose for the teaching and for the only reference. We are really thankful to the author. Rest of the part of this will be learning in our next lecture or video series. Thank you.